Hello there and welcome. I'm Bob Proctor. Do you know, in 1961, I picked up Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. Boom, like that. My entire life changed. I was sitting in a fire hall in a suburb of Toronto in Canada. I was earning $4,000 a year and I think I owed $6,000. Things were not too brilliant. I really had no hope of how to really do anything much different than I was doing. But then I got into that book, and things started to happen. Do you know, a year later I was earning $175,000 a year. Then I took it over $1 million a year. My life changed like night and day. And I often have people say, well, how did you do it? I did it cleaning offices. I was prepared to do anything honest to earn money. I got a bucket and a mop and used floor machines, and I started to clean one office. Do you know, in a relatively short period of time, I was cleaning offices in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, London, England. The thing just took off like a rocket. Now, if you asked me what I was doing, I couldn't really tell you. What did I do that was so different? And you know, it's a strange thing. I started to become aware of ideas that I had been living with that I found out had no substance. There was no foundation for the beliefs that I had been raised with. You see, I had been raised to believe that if you're going to earn a lot of money, you've got to be really brilliant. But I was earning a lot of money and I knew I wasn't. I was raised with the idea that if you don't go to school, you'll never do well in business. I went to grade 9 for 3 months. A couple of months high school, that was it. And here I was operating a business in 3 different countries and 7 different cities. And I started to ask myself, how does this happen? What am I doing that's so different? People would ask me and I say, well, I'm cleaning offices. But you know, I think that cleaning offices was almost incidental to what I was doing. I could have been doing anything. I had to find out what happened to me. Why did I change? And you see, what I really did, I changed my belief about who I am. You know, I've been into the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, the Torah, all the religious books. I have a phenomenal library of self-help books. I've got over 3,000 books on the shelves just in my library alone. They're all up there in alphabetical order by author. Now, up until 1961, I had never read a book. Think and Grow Rich was the first book I'd ever read. But I started to study. I wanted to know, why did I change? Because I gave that book to other people and nothing happened to them. Do you know, it took me 9 years. And what I arrived at is I had changed my belief about who I am. Now, in all of the great books, it said you've got to believe. William James, the great psychologist from Harvard back around 1900, he said, believe and your belief will actually create the fact. Well, you know, we read that all things are possible if you believe. Well, I started to study this word belief, and I thought, where does it come from? How do we arrive at it? How do we believe? Why do we believe what we believe? Do you know, if you really analyze most of your beliefs, they have no foundation. We believe lies. We really do. We'll say, well, I believe that, and yet our behavior would indicate we'd never heard of it. Now, this really puzzled me. I made a very good move way back in the early 60s. I selected coaches, mentors. I've had 7 of them in my life, and phenomenal ones. And I would listen carefully to them. I'd always have questions prepared when I was going to meet with them. And I remember I was sitting with Val Van de Waal. We were in a hotel in Toronto, and he said something just in idle conversation like that. It was like rockets going off in my mind. He said, our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently, if we reevaluate a situation, our belief about that situation will change. I said, what'd you say? He said, what do you mean? I said, you said something about belief. He said, our belief is based upon the evaluation of something. And frequently, if we reevaluate a situation, our belief about it will change. And suddenly, I realized what had happened in my life. I began reevaluating who I was. What made me tick? You see, if you'd asked me who I was, I would have said I was Bob Proctor. But I'm not Bob Proctor. Bob and Proctor are just 2 words. That's my name, but it's not me. Or I might have said, well, this is me. No, this is my body. This is not me. You never hear anybody phone into work and say, body's not coming in today, it's sick. Well, think about this for a moment. You've never heard anyone say, am hand. My hand, it's something I have. My name, it's something I've got. My body, it's something I've got. Well, who am I? Well, you see, over the years, it took me 9 years to figure this out. What actually happened? I started to evaluate who I was. I want you to hold your hand up in front of you. Hold it right up in front of you and look at it. It looks solid, doesn't it? It's not solid. It's a sieve at the very best. If you took the proper microscope and studied it, you'd be blown away. There's particles of energy, and there's a greater space between the particle than the size of the particle itself. Now, this thing that looks solid, that's our perception. And our perception creates our reality, but our reality sometimes is false. Our body is a mass of molecules in a very high speed of vibration. Do you know way back in the 50s, a DuPont scientist determined that there's approximately 11 million kilowatt hours per pound potential energy locked up in the electrons in the atoms of your body. We are nothing but a living mass of power. And then you'll hear somebody come in the house and they'll say, who's there? Oh, it's just me. Do you know, kids going to school don't realize who they are. And school's not teaching us who we are. Well, I started to study this. Do you know, if you just studied the electrical system in your body, the central nervous system, do you realize that the central nervous system in this physical instrument you're living in would make the electrical system in a supercomputer look like an absolute toy?